eyeshadows. I've been dreading this one because this, of course, is the category where they're all my children and I love you all equally, all 6 shelves of you. But I figure we got to break it up somehow. So, indie brands. Do we count like Isamaya as an indie brand? I don't think so. So I'm going to put her with the regular palettes. But I will say indie brands that I love, What's Up Beauty. Their palettes have got consistently better. And this last one, the Dragoneye, was a real star last year. It doesn't appear they're going to put one out this year. But I saw on their social media that they are working on one for next year. Some of the colors in here and their multi-chromes are pretty spectacular. So that's a great palette. They have 3, I believe, palettes total, but those are really beautiful. I wonder if the light can pick them up. Really nice product. My favorite indie brand is Adept. And I have tried, I believe I have all of their palettes except their very first one. So I'm hoping they put it back out. Some of my favorites include Flying Fiddles, which I believe came out earlier this year. That is fall in a palette and a beautiful complement to the newest one that they came out with last month, which is Unity. It's kind of a lighter version of that. One that's very popular for them and I think really beautiful, if you can still get it, is Cimmerian Sunset. This was a fall release from last year. More reds, golds, and greens. And then 2 of their kind of OGs are Ninhydrin, which I really love. Look at those finishes. I'm going to try 1 or 2 of those for you because, I mean, come on. How can you not? I mean, just freakishly beautiful. And Minka, which was their holiday. I don't think it was last year's holiday. I think it was the year before. But it is a beautiful palette. And I would ask Adept if they're going to continue to come out with palettes. I wish that they would consider maybe going back to this size. I really liked this compact size. I know you get more shades with the others, but I really like them. I think that this is probably my favorite. I don't always use these 2 mattes. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I'll just mix them with like a brown single or a bronzer color. But this one is just perfect because it's just the most beautiful metallics, if you can still get it. So single shadows is not necessarily a category that I love. People talk about wanting these one and done shadows and I'm like, no, I want the more elaborate look, because apparently I got into makeup about 6 years too late and 2016 would have been my prime demographic, but whatever. I have some singles that I really love. The RMS Lights, I think she's got about 10 to 11 colors now. They really need a blue, but these are a beautiful product that once they go on, they lay down. Pat McGrath has come out with some of these little pot ones, and I know that some of them are controversial or that some people didn't really like them, but there were 1 or 2 colors that are just spectacular. The one that I think is probably really hard to get from a couple of years ago, and again, I blame Charlotte Holdcroft for this, is the Smugglers Spice. It is just, it's so good. It's that gold to pink shift that Pat does over and over and over in different ways, but it's so beautiful. One that I really like that she came out with this year in 2024 in her Chromaluxe line that was made in Italy, and you know, up until the holidays she didn't really put out anything that was made in Italy eyeshadow wise, but is this one in Golden Seductress. Her and her names crack me up. But this one has a beautiful gold with a little bit of a green shift. Let me see if it'll pick it up on camera. Really nice. It's also a good substitution if you are looking for another one that I'm about to talk about, which is often sold out, which is Victoria Beckham's Blonde. If it's sold out, the Pat McGrath in Golden Seductress is a good alternative for that. Speaking of some others that I love from Pat McGrath, her liquid eyeshadows I think are pretty good. I know that some people really bitched and moaned about them, but people seem to bitch and moan about everything Pat McGrath does. But I really like the platinum color, and I think they're a nice product. I don't notice anything really crazy with them. Of course, there is the Moondust from Urban Decay. The Space Cowboy is a classic, and they have come out with Quads and Quints and that hideous throwing star this year that monopolize on it. But it's just a beautiful neutral that looks just like wet eyes. You can get a similar effect with like the Fenty Diamond Bombs, and those of course you get so much more product. Some others that I love that are singles, if you're looking for mattes, the Merits are fantastic. I have most of the colors. They did do a slightly shiny one by Merit standards last year for the holidays, but for mattes, these are beautiful. They lay down a great pigment, and then you can just throw any topper like the Fenty or like the Space Cowboy on top of it. As far as single shadows like in a pot, I think the best ones on the market, the Pat ones are lovely, but are the Victoria Beckham. I have 4. I believe she has 11 total. Some of them come in and out of stock, but this one I particularly love, which is the color Mink. It's just really pigmented and strong and lovely. It has kind of that vermilion base to it, which I really love. But she has a blue one that's really great. She has the Velvet, which is the green color. She has Tea Rose. She's got a lot of options there. And again, she has that blonde one that's often sold out. For high shine sparkle, if you don't want to do the Diamond Bomb, it's really hard to beat a newer brand to me, which is the Half Naked Glitter Puck. They've got to come out with additional colors of this, because this is just a water-based glitter that just applies like a dream. And look at the shine you get off of it. They need to come out with a clear. They need to come out with a gold, a silver. A clear would be amazing. If you could just have like the clear little flecks where it just highlighted them. You could throw that on top of anything. That's a great product. And then my 2 like mattes, if I'm just going to put one of these on top of it, that I use most of all. I was thinking about it with those new Pat McGrath duos she was putting out for the holidays this year that look really pretty, but they don't have a matte in them, and I always like a matte. The 2 mattes that I reach for the most are Natasha Denona's Black is Black. I think it's a really great black. Pat's is really nice too, but if you've got the first 3 motherships, you know that that black can get away from you really fast if you're not careful. It's really pigmented. Natasha's got a beautiful black matte formula, if I could get the fucking thing open. And it works really well. And this is also in her My Dream palette, and I believe it's in Safari if you can still get it, but I like to have it as a single. The other one I love to have as a single is Pat McGrath's Statuesque. Some woman named Miriam online got me into this one, and it is the perfect color to just use in the crease for everything. It's kind of like a bronzer, but a little bit more pigmented. Just really beautiful. So those are some single shadows, whether they be single sparklers, single mattes, creams, liquids, that I just really like. So quads and quints. When I look for a good quad or a quint, something that's like 6 colors or less, I'm looking for something that has a mix of mattes and metallics and toppers that I can use as kind of a, that's it. I don't have to go into something else. Now, I don't have the Pat McGrath Holiday Collection, Mother, I'm still waiting, even though I've seen people in Europe who've had it for a week. Whatever. But she normally comes out with these during the holidays, and she is again this year, and they look beautiful. This is one from last year called Bronze Ecstasy that is just so good. And she has another one this year that has a similar kind of tone to it. But these are actually the formula that she has in her entire holiday collection this year, which is a kind of gel formula from Italy. These are spectacular. Speaking about Pat McGrath, there's been some controversy about her quads this year, but there is no controversy when it comes to her Luxe quads. They are really beautiful. 3 of my favorites, if you can still find them, are Ritualistic Rose, which is one of her, I believe it was 2019 all astral quads. These are all baked. She doesn't do this anymore, unfortunately. But it has beautiful shades in it. She did 3 of these, and this is my favorite because it can be used, you know, on top of or you know, in a variety of looks. Then there's Voyeuristic Vixen, which, again, I know Patty Alonso cried, but it is a stunning quad, and I believe that it is still available. And this is one of Pat McGrath's best special shades ever. It is not baked, but the color on it is spectacular. I love that. And my other one that I really love, I love most of her Luxe quads, was actually my favorite, I believe, of last year of any palette, and that is Venetienne Sunrise, or is it Sunset? Sunrise? Sunset? Sunrise? Sunrise. Venetienne Sunrise. It looks really simple, but it is so perfect, and this gold is perhaps the best gold, and that's saying a lot for Pat McGrath because she loves a gold. This is perhaps the best gold she has ever done. Look how wet that looks. Let's see if we can put it on here. You can see those two together. They are just beautiful. Some other brands that I really love, the YSL quads are really beautiful. The only thing about the YSL quads is that some of the colorways look very similar. So I tend to look for ones that are a little bit different. One that I really like is it's a new one called Noir. It's 700 over Noir. I love this transition color, and the topper is so beautiful. It reminds me a lot of a quad that unfortunately you can't get anymore, but it is on my list of favorites, and that is the Chanel quad from this past spring. I believe this one is called Eclat de Nuit, and it is a gorgeous quad. Those and that YSL one are very similar. Speaking of other quads you can't get anymore, but I absolutely love, Chanel last fall did that, what's it called? Byzance collection, inspired by Coco Chanel's jewels. They were the gold ones. I really loved them. This one I know looks like Christmas, but it is stunning in that topper shade. Let me see if I can show you. Just really beautiful. And it fans out, and it just looks like wet, just beautiful sparkles. They had another one I really liked. This one was 318 from that same collection. But this one I really liked because the topper shade has a green shift, kind of similar to, what is that color? Martina Lily would know this because she talks about it all the time. VR Fire Opal from Pat McGrath. It's kind of similar to that. It's got that greeny gold shift. So that's a really beautiful one. Unfortunately, you can't get it anymore. And I'm only going to give you one other one that I believe is discontinued, although I do see it sometimes pop up. And that's Natasha Denona's Mini Star. I think I have a lot of her minis, and the thing about her minis is sometimes they begin to look repetitive. She does a lot of like nudes, variations on nudes, But I really like when she uses the minis as kind of an extension to provide something new. This one is not necessarily like that, because this one has shades that are in the original star, but I think it has the best shades, which sometimes the minis don't. They have the more traditional wearable ones. This, I believe it's called Orion, is one of my favorite shades from Natasha. It's got a brown to bluey green kind of shift, and I really like it. Speaking of Natasha, there are two others that came out last year, I believe, but that I really love. And again, I love them because they're giving me something that you can't find in their counterpoint, the MIDI palette. And that is the, which I'm not a huge blue person, but every time I wear it, people seem to like it, the mini Triochrome palette, which is really lovely, and the mini pastel. The mini pastel has this gold color. It's called, Wayne, get glasses? No, it's called Aurora. One of my favorite Natasha Denona colors she's ever done. It's got a really cool gold with pink and green sparkles in it. Both of those I really like. I know they were kind of controversial and some people really hated them, particularly the mini pastel because of that green color that's in there. But I really like the colors in there, and they're a nice extension, not just a regurgitation of what was in the big palette. Two others in the Quints and 6 category. Lisa Eldridge, I love all of her palettes. She has a new one called Fawn that's really beautiful. But I would say the most original one, or the most coveted one, is Sorcery. It's just a beautiful palette. You can shear out the two kind of darker matte satin colors and get something that's a little bit lighter and more ethereal. And then when you get to the metallics and the toppers, they're just really beautiful green shades. Like I said, all of her Quints are her 6 pans, her little pocket ones, are lovely, but that one is a real standout. And then finally, I would say all of the Prada quads, including the new holiday one, are gorgeous. But if I had to pick an absolute favorite, and it was a favorite last year, I think it was either my top or my second favorite last year, it's the one called Pulse, I think. I'll show you the color story. Maybe you can figure it out. But it has a beautiful color story. You would think that that orange would be intimidating, but it really works. And the silver in here, the metallic, is really great. But this middle color, it's a satin. It is one of my favorite colors of any brand. I don't know why. It has a little bit of sheen to it. You put those two together and they just work. The Prada formula is so beautiful, and so those would probably be my favorite of kind of the minis, the quads, the Quints, etc. Now listen, I love all of you eyeshadow palettes equally, and just because I'm pulling out some of your brothers and sisters does not mean that y'all are not special. Okay, so now we're up to eyeshadows, and I pulled out some of my favorite palettes. Again, it's not a contest. They're all lovely. All of these palettes are lovely. I have favorites from indie brands, from mid-price brands like ABH. I love Fall Romance and Cosmos. But these are just some that stick out to me that I just think are really spectacular. First, sometimes with this brand you get a lot of flash and you wonder what you're going to get. With her eyeshadow palette, she's done 3 of them, and I think they are really lovely and well done. What I don't like is that, how do you store this? Whatever. This is from Isamaya, and this is Industrial Pigments 1, although she does have other Industrial Pigments now. She has Industrial Pigments 2 and Wild Star. She did not come out with a palette this year. This one is kind of my grunge palette of my dreams. Every time I wear it, I get compliments on it. It's got some cool putties in it and some really cool shine metallics. It's just a really cool formula, and like I said, she's come out with some other ones. This one is just really cool because it's got that grunginess that I really like. Again, hard to store though. I don't like when they do them that are hard to store. Then you go to kind of my big favorite brands. I'm going to call this a tie because it really just depends. One is a lot easier to travel with. One has formulas that I like slightly better. But they're so equal that it's really up to personal preference. And that is the Ethereal Eyes from Makeup by Mario that was going away and never coming back, and then suddenly came back last Christmas. And the I Need a Nude palette from Natasha Denona. Both of these are beautiful palettes. One is smaller and easier to travel with. The other one has kind of really inventive formulas and I think a little bit more range color-wise, but they're very similar. It's just a personal preference, but they're both beautiful palettes. Speaking of Natasha, I had to pull out some of my favorite Natasha palettes. One that came out last holiday season, and I'm hoping that we get something this holiday season that's really fun, because the thing about Natasha this year is she gave us Golden and I Need a Nude Warm, or I Need a Warm, but they haven't been particularly fun palettes. They've been kind of very neutral. I've heard there's going to be an I Need a Rose or a purple palette. Purple could be interesting. The one that came out last holiday season that I really like is the Xenon palette. I never thought that I would like this palette as much as I do, but it has some of the coolest finishes in it. And let me pull some of these colors just so you can see. You wouldn't think that it's particularly versatile, but it has blues and light pinks and grays in it, and of course lots of blacks. But really fun for winter looks and for Halloween. It's just a really cool palette, and I hope that she comes out with something similar to that in maybe like that purple color story this year, because I really love it. Another from Natasha Denona that I think is pretty spectacular came out last year. It's Yucca. It's hard to beat. It's just such a cool color story with really great greens and tans and mustards and neons. It's just a cool color story that you just don't see very much in the market. And I'm going to pull two of these colors for you to look at. They're just really cool, interesting colors that you would think wouldn't work, or that they're like swampy or they look ugly, like that one green, but they're not. They're really beautiful. One palette that comes in and out of stock, and I think it's probably out of stock now, but it's probably her best value because you're getting the most colors for the price, is the Metropolis palette, which again, if you can get it, I hope you can. It's beautiful year-round, but it's particularly beautiful in the fall. It's supposed to look like Art Deco New York, and it really does have those shades. It does have a lot of similar type shades, but they have different undertones. And the sparkly, the golds, and the teals, and the red, it's just a really gorgeous one. And I guess my favorite Natasha palette, if I had to pick one, came out, I believe, 2 years ago. And it should make sense because it goes really well with other products that I've mentioned. And that's the Natasha Denona My Dream palette. It has a beautiful multi-chrome. Excuse me. Okay, one of those Natasha Denona palettes just moved. Oh, okay. I put one of the Natasha Denona palettes on top of that Isamaya palette, and now it's trying to slide off. See, that's what I'm talking about. Isamaya, really cool packaging, difficult to play well. Does not play well with others. Natasha Denona My Dream, just beautiful. A beautiful multi-chrome, beautiful metallics, neutrals. It's one of her few palettes where she actually includes the black. And then it has those burgundy and cranberry colors, and they're deep. I mean, this edgy color, that is one of the deepest colors that you can find in Natasha outside of black. I think this is probably her best palette. Well, it should be. It's her dream. And the multi-chrome in it is really beautiful. Danessa Myricks. I could say all Danessa Myricks palettes are cool because they all are interesting. Some of them have different formulas, and some of them have formulas that are a little bit harder to understand or use. The one this year, the Lightwork 6, is fantastic because you can snap it together and take it and travel, and it's easy. However, if you're just discovering Danessa Myricks, if you can still get it, and I believe you can on the Sephora sale, a great way to discover Danessa Myricks and to try it is this little Love is Love palette. I think it's so great. It reminds me of, she did a Lightwork 3 that was edited down, and it kind of reminded me of this, but it's her beautiful multi-chrome formula. She actually included some like mattes or satin mattes in it, some highlighters. It's just a really cool way to discover some of what makes Danessa Myricks so interesting and innovative. And the colors are really beautiful. Given that this came out for Pride, it may be on sale, and they might have it at Sephora as far as the Sephora sale. Additionally, I'm not really sure, but if you're new to Danessa Myricks, it's a great way to try it. Otherwise, I mean, any of her Lightworks are going to be great, including the new one, Lightwork 6. And finally, of course, my queen, the mother. I love her Christmas palettes. I'm so excited. We're back to being in Italy, but I have not received them yet. So I just have to pull some of my favorite motherships. I love all of my motherships, even the ones that I don't like as well, like 4 and 11, are still beautiful children that need to be nurtured and used. But I have some that I use more than others that are beautiful. It's hard to beat number 1 because of the blue color story. This is her original mothership, and it has beautiful toppers in it, and it has that deep dark blue. It also has that black that can easily get away if you're not careful. Another one that I really love that some people for some reason don't like, but I think it's the best fall palette on the market still, is Midnight Sun. I think it is absolutely beautiful. The toppers are spectacular, and the color story is just really great year-round, but particularly for fall. And look at some of these special shades. I mean, that is crazy. And then, of course, look at how raw my hand is because I've been doing this for quite some time. But whatever. And then my favorite palette, everybody knows this, that knows me, my favorite palette, any brand, any palette, any size, is Mothership 10 Moonlit Seduction. The perfect palette. You've got golds, you've got silvers, you've got pewters, you've got 3 beautiful colors that you can use mattes. Although I don't use this bottom one as much. I might have preferred that it be something like statuesque, like a tan. If they come out with a new Mothership, please, dear God. I hope it's inventive, and I hope it has some really nice neutrals in it. But this is outrageous, and I'm just going to pull some of the colors to show you. This is the one palette that if I had to grab a palette, I would grab this one. Let's see. These are some of the shades in the palette, but this is my favorite color from any brand, and others have tried it. Isamaya has tried it. Adept has somewhat similar, but this VR Sextasy, I believe is what it's called, from Pat McGrath. It is the most beautiful color that I have ever seen in an eyeshadow, and it just lays down so perfectly, either by itself or if you put something dark under it, like the black or like the Danessa Myricks black color fix, you will get the most stunning finish. So yeah, those are my favorite eyeshadows. Again, I love you all, but those are just some that I really love a little bit more. We'll look at other categories soon because my hands are raw. But again, it's just a way to show you some of the things that I really love. Please follow me on YouTube, Unsolicited Eyevice. Thumbs up, like, subscribe. I'm on Instagram, Unsolicited_Eyevice. And hopefully I'll see you again soon.